Sheryl Swoopes thought she could drag Caitlin Clark for an entire year and get away with it. She refused to say her name on broadcasts. She pushed false stats. She dismissed her records. But now it's all come crashing down. Swoopes has been removed from every single WNBA broadcast for the entire 2025 season. That's not just a suspension, that's a career-ending decision. And it gets worse. Because once you trace her pattern, from college scandals to coaching collapses to on-air meltdowns, you realize this wasn't just about one mistake. It was a self-made downfall built on jealousy, control, and denial.
Loyola University basketball coach Sheryl Swoopes, she's under investigation, accused of mistreating players. One of them is speaking out this morning, telling us why she wanted to transfer. ABC's Lindsay Davis is here with the details. Good morning, Lindsay.
Good morning, Lara. Sheryl Swoopes was the first woman to ever sign with the WNBA. But this morning, the college coach is not only under fire, but under investigation after reports that the majority of her roster has decided to leave.
Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark just kept winning. And when Stephen A. Smith and Nancy Lieberman both came forward to confront Swoopes publicly.
Know what you can say about Sheryl Swoopes, but if there's anything that you could say, what would you want to say in terms of the narrative that has been put out there as it pertains to her coverage and her feelings about Caitlin Clark?
It triggered the moment that finally ended her media career for good. So what really happened behind the scenes? And why is the WNBA making this move now? It didn't start with a firing. It started with a refusal. Sheryl Swoopes, the Hall of Famer, the icon, the supposed voice of women's basketball, just couldn't say Caitlin Clark's name. Game after game, broadcast after broadcast, Swoopes found ways to talk around her. Indiana Fever this, Kelsey Mitchell that, Aaliyah Boston's improvement, but never the obvious. Never the reason Indiana became the most watched team in the league. Fans noticed fast.
Shout out to Lexi Hull. I'm a big Lexi Hull fan. Watch her in AU. Lexi Hull shot the leather off the ball in their game against Seattle and just couldn't miss. Kelsey Mitchell is just stroking. She is just shooting the basketball. Aaliyah Boston, almost a triple-double.
At first, people gave her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it was an oversight. Maybe she just wasn't ready to talk about a rising star getting this much attention. But then came the podcasts, the interviews, the backhanded comments, the blatant misinformation. She claimed Caitlin Clark was in her 5th season at Iowa. She wasn't. She played 4.
This isn't just for Caitlin, but you asked me about Caitlin. If you're going to break a record, to me, if it's legitimate, you have to break that record in the same amount of time that that player set it.
Okay.
So if Kelsey Plum set that record in 4 years, well, Caitlin should have broke that record in 4 years. But because there's a COVID year and then there's another year, you know what I mean? So she's already had an extra year to break that record. So is it truly a broken record? Yeah, that'll go in the record books as Caitlin Clark is the all-time, whatever it is. I don't even know what the number is, but that's the way it'll be. And I don't think it should be.
Swoopes said Clark took 40 shots a game. That was false too. Clark averaged under 23.
Caitlin Clark right now probably takes about 40 shots a game.
Here we go.
I know you like that.
Hell yeah.
These weren't small errors, they were red flags. Therefore, fans started asking, why is one of the greatest WNBA players in history going out of her way to discredit the league's most important rookie? And then came the moment everyone remembers. On national television, Stephen A. Smith called her out. He didn't tiptoe. He didn't hedge. He asked the question no one else had the courage to say out loud. How could someone who knows the game so well completely ignore what Caitlin Clark was doing? You know basketball better than almost anyone, he said. So why are you pretending Caitlin Clark isn't changing everything?
Address the big elephant in the room, but we ain't gonna run from it today because Sheryl Swoopes made news. Now, she made news last week when she sat up there and was applauding Indiana Fever players, but then forgot to mention Caitlin Clark. Respectfully, Sheryl Swoopes, you have any idea how that makes you look? You have any idea how that serves to stain any kind of critique of Caitlin Clark, because that gives fodder to those who believe she's being hated on and ostracized to some degree? Do you realize that, Sheryl Swoopes, you're insane to do that? Let me tell you why you're insane to do that. Because Sheryl Swoopes, you're one of the greatest players ever. in the history of basketball. That's why. You won 3 Olympic gold medals. You won 4 WNBA championships. You know basketball. You know basketball better than me. You know basketball than any of the pundits. You know basketball better than most of the men that play basketball. There is no way in hell you just accidentally left Caitlin Clark's name out of that soliloquy that you dropped about the Indiana Fever. Stop it.
Swoopes didn't respond, but behind the scenes, something was shifting. The Dallas Wings quietly pulled her from Fever broadcasts. Then came more tension. Viewers complained, colleagues complained, and that's when Nancy Lieberman stepped in, not just as a legend, but as someone who had worked side by side with Swoopes. According to insiders, Lieberman called Swoopes directly. The conversation didn't go well. After that, their relationship collapsed. Lieberman didn't just speak up. She took Swoopes' seat on the broadcast team.
You know, I've known Sheryl since she was in college. I helped do her shoe deal with Nike in 1993, took her to her first ESPYs. I've known Sheryl, I've coached her. I called her when Caitlin was still playing at Iowa and she had just broken Maravich's record. You know, there was this quote by Sheryl that said, you know, Caitlin was, 25 years old. She was, 24 years old. She was a fifth-year senior. Right. She was taking 40 shots a game. Her records were illegitimate. And I got off the treadmill and I called her as a friend. And I said, you can say whatever you want. You can have your own opinion about anybody, but you do have to get the statistics right.
And with that move, the message became crystal clear. This wasn't a personal feud, it was a professional reset. But things only escalated from there. By the end of the season, WNBA insiders confirmed what fans had already suspected. Swoopes would not be returning to any broadcasts in 2025. Not for Dallas, not for Indiana, not for any team. Her name was gone from the press releases. Her face disappeared from the promo materials. She had been erased. And while she scrambled to repair her image, suddenly complimenting Caitlin Clark on ESPN, praising the Fever's offseason moves, and backtracking on everything she'd said, fans didn't buy it. Therefore, the story stopped being about one bad take. It became a cautionary tale. The WNBA is growing. Caitlin Clark is leading that growth. And anyone trying to tear it down from the inside isn't just being watched, they're being replaced. What happened to Sheryl Swoopes wasn't just a firing, it was a statement. Because while she spent the last year doubting Caitlin Clark, the rest of the league was building around her. Indiana didn't just get better, they got serious. They added 3-time champion Natasha Howard. They signed 2-time All-Star DeWanna Bonner. And they stacked their bench with players like Sophie Cunningham and Brianna Turner. Now, Caitlin Clark's team is ranked among the top 3 in the league. And the same person who claimed nobody wanted to play with Clark, that it was a toxic locker room, she's watching from the sidelines while championship-caliber veterans choose Indiana. Therefore, the real question isn't why was Swoopes fired, it's why did it take this long? She ignored the most exciting player the league has ever seen. She spread misinformation. She made broadcasts uncomfortable. And when she was finally held accountable, she flipped her tone overnight, as if fans wouldn't notice. But they did. And now, while Caitlin Clark signs autographs, breaks records, and fills arenas across the country, Sheryl Swoopes is left out of the conversation she tried so hard to control. Because when legends forget how to lead, the game moves on without them. And this game, it's Caitlin Clark's now.
So, Caitlin Clark will be appearing on the Bird and Taurasi show.
Caitlin Clark just stepped into a Zoom call with Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi and completely flipped the script. She didn't play it safe. She didn't dodge questions. And she definitely didn't stay quiet.
Caitlin Clark, Caitlin, did you ever
What's
think
up,
you'd
guys?
be back? Cheers.
Excited to be
Cheers.
back. Don't worry. I got this nice throwback theater can.
Well played. Well played.
Instead, she confronted the critics, threw subtle shade, and sent a message that even left Diana speechless. From torching the toxic locker room, lies spread by Sheryl Swoopes, to laughing off Taurasi's infamous reality is coming moment, to calling out UConn's elite defense and praising Paige Beckers in a way that'll shock you.
Second half's about to start. I know you've been watching the first half. What have you seen so far?
Well, I thought it was going to be a high-scoring game there from the first 5 minutes, which got me a little excited. I was like, no defense, this is great. Then it slowed down a little bit. I mean, I was watching you guys' show before I got on here. I agree with you, G. I think South Carolina, I would love to see a little full-court press. Why not pick it up a little bit, create some turnovers? But, I mean, Sarah Strong is just so good. I love her game. She's so fun to watch. AZ played great, so... it's been a solid game, but I hope South Carolina can get it close just so it's a fun finish.
This wasn't just an interview, it was a declaration, a warning shot to the entire WNBA. Caitlin Clark isn't here to fit in, she's here to take over. And once you hear what she said behind the scenes, you'll understand why the league is already hers. It started with a smirk. The second Caitlin Clark's face lit up that Zoom screen next to Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi. You could feel the tension in the air. Not the negative kind, but the kind that shows when generations collide. 1 year earlier, Taurasi had delivered her viral warning to Clark during the NCAA Final Four. Reality is coming.
There's more than just that are coming. What will the league have in store for them when they get there?
Look, SVP, reality is coming. There's levels to this thing, and that's just life. We all went through it.
Of course.
And you see it on the NBA side, and you're going to see it on this side, where, you know, you look superhuman playing against 18-year-olds, but you're going to come with some grown women that have been playing professional basketball for a long time. Not saying that it's not going to translate, because when you're great at what you do, you're just going to get better. But there is going to be a transition period where you're going to have to give yourself some grace as a rookie. And, you know, it might take a little bit longer for some people.
That phrase lived rent-free in every basketball fan's head for a full year. But now, with both players on the same screen, the moment came full circle. And Caitlin, she didn't even need to say a word. A smirk, a subtle nod, a calm confidence that said everything without saying anything. Diana congratulated her. Caitlin smiled again and delivered the punchline with perfect timing. Unfortunately, reality is coming to me now.
Oh, congrats on your retirement, D.
Thank you.
And congrats.
Now, unfortunately, reality is coming to me now.
What's your big plans?
That wasn't just clever, it was calculated. Clark knew the quote, she knew the moment, and she knew exactly how to flip it. Therefore, the vibe shifted immediately. The power dynamic wasn't just balanced, it had tipped. This wasn't a rookie being lectured, this was a new face of the league sending a message to the veterans. I belong here. But Caitlin didn't stop there. When Diana brought up their first matchup in Phoenix, she described it as surreal. The crowd, the energy, the anticipation, it felt like a championship game, a farewell to a legend, and the arrival of a new one.
It was amazing. You know, I've been following Caitlin for so long and been watching her college career just in awe, and to be on the court and, you know, the first game was in Phoenix and it felt like the last game that was ever going to be played. There was such anticipation. The crowd was going crazy. All the people that came out to see Caitlin and you know, our team play against each other. It really was an amazing moment. And you talked about how, you know, if you could play against anyone that is this new generation. So I got to cross paths with Caitlin, at least for a couple games. And to me, that meant a lot, you know? Like, we've been doing this for a long time. To see Caitlin do what she does is, I think someone said the other day, I'm like, I want the season to start so I can watch you again.
Diana was honest about what it meant to share the court with someone she'd watched dominate college hoops. However, Caitlin's memory of that same game was a little different. She remembered being down by double digits. She remembered the comeback. She remembered the win. And she made sure to mention it. That wasn't arrogance, it was intent. In her mind, beating a legend on her own floor wasn't just exciting, it was confirmation. Proof that all the noise around her name had weight. That she could not only compete at this level, but she could lead and deliver wins. Therefore, the moment became bigger than just the score. It became a passing of the torch, one that wasn't handed gently, but one that Caitlin earned possession of.
You were saying what it was like to play against D.
Well, I was saying, like, that game in Phoenix, because we only played in Phoenix one time, and it was before Olympic break. Obviously, we had All-Star there too, but it was a great game. Honestly, I'm pretty sure we were down like 10 or 15 and came all the way back and won. That was like our first like win versus a team that was above 500. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Great. And all we heard that whole week was like, Indiana, they don't get along, all this. And I'm like, great. And then I'm like, this is the most together team I've ever seen.
Still, this wasn't all tension. It wasn't all mind games. Sue Bird, ever the steady presence, leaned into the bigger picture. She asked Clark about the Fever's new roster, about the fresh start under head coach Stephanie White. And that's when Caitlin lit up again. Not with attitude, but with excitement.
Caitlin, how excited are you for this next WNBA season? New head coach and Stephanie White. You added Natasha Howard, who Sue knows really well, DeWanna Bonner, which I know really well, Sophie Cunningham. I mean, it seems like, from the outside, this roster's ready to compete now, which is easy for us to say. We know there's a process to get there, but like when you see that, you see those names come in, what does that make you feel like?
7 new players, a short training camp, high expectations. Most rookies would feel the pressure, but Caitlin, she's already breaking it down like a vet. She knows the challenge. She's studied the names: Natasha Howard, DeWanna Bonner, Sophie Cunningham, Brianna Turner. These aren't just new teammates, they're weapons. And Clark is already mapping out how they'll all fit together. But more than anything, she highlighted something people overlook: chemistry, building it fast, leading by example, knowing when to speak and when to listen. Therefore, Caitlin's not just preparing for the spotlight, she's preparing to control it. And while most people are still wondering if she can live up to the hype.
Oh, well, I mean, obviously on paper we have a really good team, but you only have, we start training camp, I think, on the 27th, and then, we have a back-to-back of preseason games on May 3rd and May 4th. So it's you have a very short amount of time to put that together, and 7 new pieces, and whether we carry 11 or 12, it's more than half of our roster. That's a hard thing within itself, but we should be pretty good, and, I'm excited about it. I think what we needed was, we added a lot more experience. In the playoffs, we just didn't have that. We were a young group. Even Kels, obviously with being with the Fever through her entire career, she hasn't really had the opportunity to play in a ton of playoff games. So having that, whether it's Sydney Colson, whether it's DB, whether it's Natasha Howard, whoever it is, I think having that experience is going to be really good for us and that leadership in the locker room. So I'm excited. And obviously Steph is one of the smartest basketball minds I've ever been around. And, everybody knows that across the league. Everybody admires her and the way she coaches and the way she leads. So I'm excited to learn from her, honestly.
Caitlin Clark's already 5 steps ahead, treating every moment like it matters. But the real shock came when the conversation shifted to one of the biggest WNBA controversies of the offseason. Sheryl Swoopes had claimed the Indiana Fever locker room was toxic. She suggested players didn't want to be there, that the team was fractured behind the scenes.
There's a lot of other shit going on that players are like, this ain't where I want to be.
Over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some new shit
it's
going
a
on
lot.
around there.
It's a lot. So you have players that are very significant on this Indiana Fever team that are like, I don't
want to be here.
This is where I want to be.
Yeah.
The media ran with it. Fans speculated. And for weeks, Caitlin Clark stayed silent. Until now. When Sue Bird brought it up directly, Caitlin didn't flinch. She didn't dance around it. She took a deep breath and said exactly what she thought.
All the narratives like that one, that your team didn't get along, and just having to literally ignore it, deal with it, even though you know it's not true.
Yeah, I think it's something you kind of just become used to. It's people think they know what's going on inside of your locker room, and they just don't. At the end of the day, it's just, the girls that you have in there, and then obviously your coaching staff, and that's all that matters. And honestly, the best thing about last year is we honestly had so much fun together. Yeah, we lost our first 8 games or whatever, but we wouldn't have won if we didn't have a tight-knit circle or a good locker room. And that's the reason we kind of turned everything around, is just we needed some time. We were a young group, and we figured it out. But yeah, it was really fun, honestly.
But just as Caitlin Clark was shutting down one controversy, another one exploded online. While she calmly exposed the truth behind the Indiana Fever's so-called toxic locker room, a different kind of chaos was brewing around Angel Reese. This time, it wasn't about attitude or rivalries. It was about numbers, headlines, and one of the most suspicious jersey sellouts women's basketball has ever seen. Because what happened next left fans questioning everything they thought they knew about Reese's popularity. 2 minutes. That's all it supposedly took for Angel Reese's jersey to sell out. But what if that wasn't the truth? While fans were celebrating record-breaking sales and media headlines painted a picture of massive demand, a much stranger story was unfolding in the background. The numbers didn't add up, the timing was too perfect, and suddenly the same league that can't even pay its players was trending like the NBA. But here's the catch. Caitlin Clark never needed tricks like this. Her jerseys fly because the demand is real. Her fan base doesn't need staged rollouts or fake scarcity. They just show up every time. So when Reese's camp tried to frame this as a viral victory, the internet started asking the one question no one in her team wanted to hear. Was this whole thing a setup? It all started with a headline. At exactly 10:04 p.m. Eastern, the unrivaled league released its new jerseys online. Just 4 minutes later, articles were already surfacing claiming that Angel Reese's jersey had completely sold out. 4 minutes. Not only is that barely enough time to refresh a page, but it's definitely not enough time for news outlets to verify the data.
Chicago Sky star Angel Reese is one of the most popular female basketball players today. In fact, she's the most followed WNBA athlete on Instagram, boasting 4.8 million followers on the platform. With that said, it's no surprise that there's a lot of people who are willing to buy merchandise related to her. When Unrivaled Basketball announced on Thursday that the players' jerseys were now available for sale online, several fans naturally came to the site to get a hold of Reese's number 5 jersey. Now, I'm going to be the first to tell you, I'm not shocked her jersey sold out, all right? Or that it would at least eventually sold out. I'm not shocked by that. It's the 2 or 3 minute part that I think could be questioned. Of course, you're not supposed to question anything, right?
Write full articles, edit them, and publish across multiple platforms. That's when basketball fans started raising eyebrows. But here's what made people stop and really think. Every major player in the league supposedly sold out at the same exact moment. Natasha Cloud, Brittany Griner, and even Kayla McBride all sold out at once. That's not how actual consumer behavior works.
So, but you are trying to tell me that Natasha Cloud is moving the needle? That Kayla McBride is moving the needle? That Brittany Griner, somebody that came back from Russia, and the very arena she was playing in for her first game couldn't even sell out. Not only could it not sell out, didn't come close to selling out. You're trying to tell me they moved the needle because of demand and all of their jerseys were gone in 4 minutes.
When the new iPhone drops, you don't see every version sell out at the same time. The most popular models go first. The less in-demand ones can sit for hours, even days. So how did these unrivaled jerseys all vanish at the same pace? The answer might be artificial scarcity, the kind of limited drop strategy sneaker companies use to create hype, produce a small number of items, claim they sold out instantly, let the internet do the rest.
Or if you've got half a brain at all, would it be prudent to suggest out loud that possibly they only had 50 or 100 of these damn things available to begin with? Question mark?
But this is where the panic started to set in, because fans noticed something off. Real demand leaves a trail. Screenshots, social media photos, unboxing videos, people posting their purchases. But this time, almost nothing. No one showing off their Angel Reese jersey. No big flex on game day. Just frustration from fans who clicked fast and still missed out.
This Angel Reese jersey is the one that's causing red flags because people were saying within 2 minutes of clicking on this damn site, her jersey sell out, which means it might have been only 5, allegedly. Like just like the number on her jersey, that's how many they had available, allegedly, bro. I just got to keep it real. Because they saying ain't no way Angel Reese jersey sell out within 2 2 minutes, bro. This has never happened. Not even her Chicago Sky jersey sold out that fast. I'm going to tell you, I got to believe him, bro.
Therefore, people started asking the hard questions. Was there ever more than 50 jerseys available? Were the other players' jerseys added to the sold-out list just to boost the appearance of league-wide success? Was this rollout even real? Caitlin Clark's camp didn't need to do any of this. Her merchandise sells because fans are hungry for it. Her popularity has been earned on the court. When her jerseys drop, they move, and they keep moving. Not because a PR team staged it, but because her brand is built on performance. But Angel Reese's team may have played this differently. The sellout announcement hit every platform at once. The tone wasn't just informative, it was promotional. These weren't articles reacting to something. They felt like messages that had been prepared in advance. Coordinated, scripted, ready to fire the moment the fake sold-out alert was triggered. It's the oldest marketing trick in the book. Create the illusion of high demand so the product seems more valuable. But when the hype starts falling apart, you're left with angry fans and questions that don't have answers. And those questions are what led to the biggest red flag of all. How can a league that can't even pay its players suddenly become a merchandise powerhouse? That's the red flag no one can ignore. The unrivaled league reportedly promised players bonuses of $50,000, bonuses that still haven't been paid. Yet somehow, in the middle of financial turmoil, they're pulling off record-breaking sales with flawless coordination. That's not just unlikely, it's suspicious. Fans aren't buying it, literally or figuratively. Angel Reese supporters were vocal online. Some said they were on the website the moment jerseys dropped and still came up empty. Others begged for a restock, confused at how something could vanish so fast without warning. But what was supposed to be a viral victory turned into a credibility crisis. When you dig deeper, this wasn't about Angel Reese's popularity. It was about making Unrivaled look bigger than it really is. And it backfired. Because now fans are asking, where are the receipts? How many jerseys were actually made? Where are the photos? The proof? Caitlin Clark never had to worry about this. Her game speaks louder than any headline. And her fan base? They're real. They show up. They sell out arenas. They don't need stunts. Therefore, as the truth unravels, one thing becomes clear. This wasn't a story about Angel Reese's star power. It was a story about how far a league will go to manufacture relevance. And if that's the playbook Unrivaled is running with, then the jersey stunt may just be the beginning. But that wasn't the only fallout from trying to discredit Caitlin Clark. Because while Unrivaled was busy staging jersey drama, another name from women's basketball history was caught in a firestorm of her own. Not over merchandise, but over words, over bias, over a year-long campaign to downplay the very player driving the league's explosion in popularity. And just like Unrivaled's fake sellout narrative, this story ended in a public collapse.